A wealthy man regains consciousness at his own funeral, and the first thing he hears is his wife and her lover talking about. David, a notorious and prosperous businessman, suddenly awakens as if emerging from a deep, turbulent sleep. His eyes remain closed as he tries to make sense of the feeling of exhaustion and pain that permeates his body. In an attempt to orient himself, David slowly opens his eyes and, with a mixture of confusion and horror, realizes that he is not in the comfort of his residence, but lying inside a coffin, in the midst of the oppressive silence of his own wake. Immobilized, unable to move or vocalize, panic quickly settles in his mind as frantic inquiries arise. Where am I? Why am I here? Is this really a coffin? As the fear and bewilderment intensify, David hears muffled voices outside the coffin. One of them, unmistakable, is that of Emily, his wife. He overhears her talking to someone intimately. Finally, I thought we could never complete this, she says in a tone of triumph, revealing a sinister plan to usurp her husband's fortune. Now it's just a matter of moving forward with what we plan and then enjoying, Emily adds with a calculating coolness. Yes, dear. Your persistence is impressive, replies one man, Emily's lover, admiring her tenacity in trying to eliminate David again and again. Do you remember the car accident on the bridge? I never thought he would survive, he comments, prompting more questions from Emily about the possibility of anyone suspecting his actions. From the inside of his coffin, David, now with tears streaming down his face, feels betrayed and devastated. How could she do that? I dedicated my life to our marriage, he reflects bitterly, recalling the countless times he was suspicious of Emily, sharing those concerns only with George, his friend and confidant. Determined, he thinks, I need to inform George. I need to find a way out of this horrible situation. While Emily, with the skill of an actress, simulates despair and pain alongside Lewis, who poses as a friend of the couple, David begins to recall small incidents that have occurred in recent months, incidents that he once attributed to bad luck, but which he now understood as assassination attempts planned by his wife. At that moment, he listens to Emily again, her voice full of resentment. If only you knew the real reason for my marriage. It was out of revenge. His father did me so much harm, and when I found out that David was his son, I only thought about getting revenge, she confesses hatefully. Surprised, Lewis asks about the financial motivation, to which Emily replies that it is both reasons. Planning to follow the body to David's hometown, where he would be buried next to his mother, Emily feigns a compassion she doesn't feel, trying to manipulate even George during a chance encounter. George, I know you'd understand, David should be by his mother's side. It's the most appropriate, she insists, while George, suspicious, agrees to contact, but with reservations. Meanwhile, inside the coffin, a small hope arises for David when he realizes that he can slightly move his little finger and thumb. Despite the desperate situation, he clings to this spark of hope, thinking fervently, there is a way out. God help me. I need to find a way out of here. Emily and Lewis, after the ceremony, accompany the hearse to David's hometown, while he, trapped in his coffin, plans every second that he hopes will lead him to freedom. Emily and Lewis arrived at the small village where David grew up, accompanying the hearse after a long journey. Emily quickly delegated responsibilities to her subordinates and left, leaving instructions to only be informed when the job was completed. The henchman, following the orders received, handed over a sum of money to Peter, the gravedigger, with specific instructions to bury the coffin quickly under the pretext that David had not left family members to mourn his death. They promptly walked away after payment. Peter, with an expression of regret, cast a sympathetic look at the coffin. Meanwhile, David inside the coffin, sensing a glimmer of hope, began to move his toes that he had not yet tried. Realizing his ability to move more parts of his body, he struggled to regain full control of his limbs. Peter's assistants prepared to lower the coffin into the grave, while the gray sky and heavy clouds seemed to reflect David's melancholy and despair. In the midst of the silence, Peter murmured a prayer for the rest of the soul he believed to be lonely. At that moment, the reality of the day was interrupted by the approach of Anna, Peter's niece. Max, the loyal dog who was always by Peter's side, ran to meet her, barking happily. Anna approached and exclaimed with a smile, "Uncle, I decided to surprise you. You never seem to be home." Peter laughed. "But look, it seems that today it is quite calm around here. I didn't see many people, so I decided to come here." "But what is that?" Anna asked, a little uncomfortable, pointing to the isolated coffin. "Why is it so abandoned here?" Peter looked in the direction indicated and sighed before explaining, "It's a sad story, Anna. A woman and a man, who seemed to be his companion, were here for a brief moment, accompanied by some men. They made a quick payment and asked me to take care of the burial quickly, saying that the deceased had no family." Anna listened attentively with eyes full of sadness for the stranger in the coffin, without imagining the real struggle that was unfolding inside it. At that moment, Max started barking. Distracted by the dog's commotion, Anna soon noticed an unusual sound that seemed to emanate from the coffin. Intrigued, she moved closer, as Max's barks grew in urgency. "Uncle, are you listening to this? It seems that something is moving inside," exclaimed Anna, her voice tinged with alarm and surprise. "Listen, Uncle," insisted Anna, focusing her attention on the noises that seemed to intensify inside the coffin. David, realizing that his presence might have been detected, redoubled his efforts, moving more vigorously in trying to get attention in every way. Tapping lightly and trying to speak, his weak voice began to be heard through the cracks in the coffin. Peter and Anna, responding quickly, began the process to open the coffin with a mixture of urgency and fear. To the surprise of everyone there, when they lifted the lid, they found David alive, his movements slow and his eyes wide, overflowing with fear and relief. Anna quickly approached the coffin, looking at the man who was crying out for help, with an expression of compassion and determination. "Calm down, you're safe now, just try to breathe," she said, trying to calm the visibly shaken man. As those present around tried to process the unbelievable event, Anna leaned closer to David, allowing him to whisper with difficulty. "Please don't tell anyone." "She tried to bury me alive," he managed to say with gasping breaths, the pain evident in his raspy voice. "Let the coffin be buried as if I were in it, please," David pleaded. Anna looked at Peter for approval, who nodded his head in a gesture of acceptance, understanding the gravity of the situation. Peter promptly buried the empty coffin to keep the charade going, while Anna discreetly took David to the nearest hospital. At the hospital, Anna acted quickly, introducing David as a cousin who had suddenly fallen ill during a visit. David was pale and visibly shaken, in dire need of hydration and care. Anna remained by his side through the night, watching him struggle with the traumas of his experience as he sometimes cried and called for help in his restless sleep. "It's okay now, you're safe," Anna murmured, holding his hand. "You are among friends, and we will take care of you," she promised, as she felt the depth of terror David had gone through. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead, armed with truth and newfound resilience. After David took an invigorating shower and changed his clothes for something more comfortable, the man's rejuvenated appearance became more evident to Anna. He possessed dense eyebrows, short, black hair, pale skin, and a generally serious countenance, making him remarkably attractive. Standing approximately 6 feet tall, David had a posture that denoted resilience. While David rested, Hannah contemplated the injustice of the situation. "Why would anyone do this to you? And by the way, what's your name? I hope you're okay and that you can get through all of this one day," she murmured, more to herself, as she watched her restless sleep. Night gave way to the first rays of morning sunshine, which illuminated the room through the window. Anna was sitting on a couch next to the hospital bed where David lay. The environment was quiet, providing a moment of peace after the chaos. David opened his eyes slowly, confused and disoriented at first. "Have I died, or am I really in a hospital?" he asked himself, his voice low and hoarse. As he turned his head and saw Anna sleeping peacefully next to him, the reality of his safety became clear. He silently thanked him to be alive. Remembering the need to contact George, he eagerly awaited Anna's awakening. When Anna moved, signaling that she was waking up, David wasted no time. "Have you woken up yet?" he asked, Anna standing up and approached him with a comforting smile. "How are you? Can you move?" her voice brimming with concern. "I feel good, thank you, and yes, I can move," David replied, his honey-colored eyes reflecting gratitude. "Thank you so much for saving my life. I wonder what they could have used to paralyze me in this way. By the way, my name is David." "I'm Anna," she replied with a smile. "Well, David, it was probably some kind of neuromuscular blocker or some poison to restrict your movements while keeping you conscious. But the important thing is that you're recovering," she said, relieved. "You seem to know a lot about this, are you a doctor?" David asked, curious. "Not exactly, I've always been interested in medicine and studied a lot, but I never pursued a career," Anna shared, a trace of nostalgia in her voice. "Anna, could I ask you a favor? I need you to make a call to a very reliable friend. Could you call him?" David requested it kindly. "Of course, do you know his number?" Anna was ready to help. "Yes, I called him often." "Please pass me your phone and I enter the number and you can make the call." "I still feel a little weak for a long conversation," David explained, as Anna quickly prepared the phone. He dialed and handed the phone to Anna, who in an urgent voice spoke into the phone, "George, it is urgent that you come now. It's about your friend David, he's alive." George's response was quick and full of determination. "I'm on my way," he said. Hearing this, David felt a wave of relief and gratitude. She knew of George's loyalty and had full confidence that she could count on his unconditional support at this critical moment. Hannah, wondering what the next steps would be, asked David, "And now, what are you going to do?" "For now, I'm going to rest a little until I can think more clearly. I'm exhausted. And there's a lot to process," David replied in his weak voice. "So, I'll go home quickly and come back as soon as possible." "Are you sure he will be fine here alone?" asked Anna, with evident concern. With a smile full of gratitude, David assured, "Yes, I will be fine. Thank you very much for everything, Anna." As soon as David rested, a whirlwind of memories and revelations flooded his mind. Recent events have made him question everything he knew about Emily, his wife, whose sinister intentions had nearly led to his untimely death. Now, leaning back in his hospital bed, he reflected on the speed with which Emily had entered his life and altered her destiny in such dramatic ways. By the time he met Emily, she was already a striking figure, working as a photographic model for his company's advertising campaign. She had a presence that did not go unnoticed, red-headed, tall, and always dressed in a way that attracted attention. Emily knew how to manipulate their interactions, making herself present in David's building frequently, under allegations of professional commitments. However, his true intentions were far from being just professional. "What a fool I was," David thought, berating himself for falling so easily into Emily's web. She played with her emotions deftly, often showing herself vulnerable and lacking in affection, which led him to want to protect her. When she declared herself in love, she revealed to him a personal secret, an attempt to create a bond of trust between them. "I can't believe I fell in love with you," she said, trying to engage David in her sentimental game. "If I knew my past, I'd understand why it's so hard for me to believe I'm in love with you," she had said, her voice tinged with mystery, always leaving a trail of curiosity and compassion. Emily's real motivation came to light during a visit to David's office, who was absent that day. She was accompanied by her agent for a photo shoot, and it was during a conversation with George, David's right-hand man, that Emily caught a revealing glimpse. When he noticed a photograph in the room, his gaze was fixed intensely on the image that showed David with his family. "Do any of them own this company?" asked Emily, trying to sound casual. "Oh yes, the one with the honey-colored eyes is David, and next to him are his father, Robert, his mother, and his brother," George replied, pointing to each one in the photo. The name of David's father made Emily shudder inside, reviving an old wound. Incredible, so young and already running a business of this size, she commented, hiding the real excitement she felt. Her hatred for Robert, David's father, consumed her, and now she saw an opportunity for revenge. Emily not only wanted to get revenge on the man she hated, but she decided she would do it through her son. "I'm going to seduce this David, marry him, and make him pay for what his father did," she planned quietly, her eyes shining with cold, calculating determination. As David now reflected on these events, he felt a mixture of pain and anger, lamenting the ease with which he had been deceived and the depth of the betrayal that nearly cost him his life. The need to confront Emily and unravel her entire plan became more urgent than ever, but first, he needed to regain his strength and seek allies. After the casual and deliberate encounters that Emily engineered to get closer to David, she began to reveal more of her personal life. In one particular encounter, feeling a mixture of genuine desire for connection and strategic manipulation, Emily chose to open her heart to David. She realized she had his full attention and decided to share a very intimate story. "I want you to know something very important about me," Emily began, catching David's gaze with intensity. "I feel like I need to share this with someone who can understand." David, showing an expression of concern, replied cautiously, "We're still getting to know each other, are you sure you want to open up like that?" He tried to soften the moment with a smile, adding, "You can trust me, your secret is safe with me." She then revealed, "It's about what I said before, about not believing I'm in love. I want to explain why." With David's attention completely focused on her, Emily continued her story. She said that, a decade ago, she had been involved with an older man. The meetings were always secret, away from the eyes of others. But when she found out that he was married, she decided to end the relationship. The man did not take the breakup well and began to pursue her. 2 months after the breakup, on a dark street she often used to return home, he confronted her and brutally attacked her. After the abuse, he threatened her with death if he saw her with another man. This terrible incident marked Emily deeply, instilling an enduring resentment against all men. Isolating herself at home after the death of her mother, who couldn't stand the sadness of seeing her daughter suffer, Emily finally found some comfort in an aunt's house. Gradually, she began to resume her life, working as a model, but maintained a firm barrier against any intimate interaction with older men. "That's a part of my life that I've never shared. I approached you because somehow I felt you could be different," she said, looking at David with calculated vulnerability. David, touched by the sincerity perceived in Emily's words, felt a deeper connection form between them. He decided to give the relationship a chance, seeing its openness as a sign of mutual trust. Over the next few months, David and Emily's relationship grew in intensity. David noticed that Emily really seemed to struggle with her interaction with older men and was understanding, suggesting that she seek psychological support to deal with her traumatic past. Emily hesitated, fearing that such a step might invade her privacy and reveal more than she wanted. Eventually, Emily began to frequent David's house more assiduously, cementing the trust he placed in her. They began arguing about marriage, and for Emily, it meant that her quest for revenge was bearing fruit. Despite her true story and the trauma that came with it, her initial motivation to get revenge on David for her hatred for his father remained intact. She had become a cold and calculating person, but all she had told David was the truth. This duality made Emily a complex and dangerous figure, driven by both revenge and authentic feelings that struggled to emerge amidst the chaos of her troubled emotions. With the relationship deepening and the connection seeming genuine, David, increasingly in love with Emily, decided to take a decisive step. At a romantic dinner, under the soft glow of the candles, he knelt down and, with a shiny ring in hand, proposed marriage to Emily. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" The surprise and excitement made Emily hesitate for a moment, but soon her face lit up with a smile and she accepted, sealing the commitment with a passionate kiss. The first months of marriage were peaceful and happy. Emily continued working and became even more involved in the company that David owned, seeming to be completely dedicated to her new married life. However, the arrival of the news of David's parents' visit began to change things. The mention of her father always upset Emily, who knew of his connection to the man she hated the most. When David mentioned that his father had returned to the country, Emily felt a surge of anxiety that she couldn't disguise. A few days later, David's father suffered a serious accident and died. David was devastated, and Emily was content inside. She invented an urgent photo shoot on the day of David's father's funeral and did not attend, leaving her husband to go alone. "I won't be long," David said sadly. "Yes, love, my condolences to your mother," she said, pretending to care. At the same time, in the professional environment, Emily began to develop a complicated relationship with Louis, another model at the agency who often worked for David's company. Initially, the meetings between Emily and Louis were purely professional, but over time, Emily saw in Louis a figure who could be useful for her darkest plans. Louis, drawn to Emily's beauty and mystery, quickly became more involved than he should have. He noticed the tension and coldness that Emily occasionally showed, which intrigued him even more. In one of the meetings after a photo shoot, in a discreet cafe, Emily decided to trust Louis, driven by her need to have someone by her side who could help her with her plans. "I feel like I can trust you, Louis. I need someone who is by my side, without judgment," Emily said, her gaze fixed and intense. Louis, flattered by the confidence and excited by the idea of getting involved in something riskier and more exciting, accepted without hesitation. From that moment on, their relationship took a new turn, with Louis becoming not only a lover, but an accomplice in Emily's plans. The secret relationship between Emily and Louis began to affect her marriage to David. The weeks away from the excuses of photo shoots in distant cities became frequent. David, noticing the changes in Emily's behavior, felt increasingly isolated and confused about the woman he had married. Despite his patience and desire to help Emily overcome whatever was causing her anguish, he was far from imagining how deep the plot he was involved in. Emily, upon returning home after a week's absence, was resolute in putting an end to her marriage in a dark and definitive way. The weight of the disturbing dreams and the oppressive presence of David's late father in her mind propelled her into a nefarious plan. Upon arriving home, Emily staged a warm reconciliation, hugging David and suggesting a relaxing evening with pizza and wine, an attempt to mask her true intentions. David, relieved and anxious for a return to normality, welcomed the idea with enthusiasm, completely oblivious to the imminent danger. Emily, with a calculating look, dressed attractively and prepared the wine, secretly adding a substance to the glass intended for David, while muttering to herself about the dosage of the poison. "I hope this amount is enough," she thought, taking a sip from her own, unadulterated glass. When David returned from the bath, refreshed and unaware of the danger, Emily offered him the poisoned wine with one last kiss, as if marking the end of their relationship in a way he would never suspect. "And the work, was it okay?" David asked casually, trying to keep up a light conversation. "Oh, it was amazing," Emily replied with fake enthusiasm, encouraging him to relax and enjoy the night, keeping his guard down. David drank the poisoned wine, commenting on the drink's unusually strong effect on his system. "I thought you missed being with me." "I'm feeling dizzy, I haven't had a drink in a while," he confessed, feeling his body heavier and heavier. When the intercom rang announcing the arrival of the pizza, David insisted on answering, despite the growing drowsiness. He returned with the pizza, but his ability to stay awake was rapidly waning. He leaned back on the couch, seeking comfort in Emily's lap. "Let me lean back here on your lap for a while," he urged, as the drowsiness quickly turned into a deep sleep induced by the poison. Emily, watching David fall asleep for good, couldn't help but feel a mixture of relief and ominous satisfaction. "I hope you sleep forever, love," Emily said quietly, celebrating the effectiveness of her dark plan. After that moment, David did not wake up, leaving Emily to face the consequences of his actions and the unfolding of a plan that proved fatal. The spiral of lies and manipulation had reached its tragic climax, irrevocably altering the course of their lives. Back in the present, with George's arrival and meeting at Anna's house, the atmosphere was warm. David, still reeling from the shock and confusion of his near-fatal experience, explained to George all that had happened, and expressed his gratitude to everyone around him who had played a role in his survival. Peter, with his voice full of wisdom, spoke to David in a way that reflected a deep understanding of the fragility of life. "Don't worry about it," he said in response to David's thanks. "Life is so important and divine that we don't have enough words to talk about it. Just take advantage of this new opportunity and listen to your heart, boy." David absorbed Peter's words, feeling strengthened by them. The presence of his friends and his recent near-death experience had transformed his worldview and his next steps. George showed palpable relief at seeing his friend out of danger and in a safe environment. His loyalty and concern were unwavering, and he was determined to remain by David's side, helping him navigate the troubled waters that were yet to come, especially with the legal and personal complications related to Emily and control of the company. "I'm here, my friend, nothing will happen. Rest assured," George said. As they enjoyed breakfast, conversations about future plans and reflections on recent events merged. After breakfast, Anna and George converged on arrangements so that George could visit often, ensuring that David would not be left alone while he fully recovered. Hannah's offer to open her home to David during this critical time was a testament to the depth of her kindness. The morning passed, marking the beginning of a new chapter in David's life, one that he was just beginning to write with the help of his friends. Changing the course of the conversation, George introduced a new topic: the next steps to be taken. He mentioned having ties to some fellow police officers, professionals who had worked with his father, a respected police officer who had sadly passed away. "If I share this story with them and explain the connection I have with David, I am convinced that they will offer us support," George said, mentally visualizing the scene of Emily being detained and tried. "Listen, I have an idea that might work," Anna interjected. "If we call her and insinuate that we are in the know, it is likely to shake her." Anna also suggested that they could arrange a meeting and secretly record Emily's confession, using hidden cameras and recorders. "It looks like you already have a plan in mind," David commented, smiling. With a more serious expression, David shared one more detail that could be crucial: "She confided in me something very personal that, apart from me, only that man who accompanied her that day at the wake should know, as she mentioned it while we were close to the coffin." George and Anne's curiosity was immediately piqued. "What did she reveal?" asked George. "She told me that about 10 years ago, she was abused by a much older man," David confided. "She only told me because, at the time, she was deeply in love with me." He further detailed that Emily developed a significant fear of older men, especially those with gray hair, who reminded her of that traumatic experience. Emily, he said, also suffered from frequent nightmares, intensified after her father's death, to the point of refusing to attend his funeral. "We can use this to our advantage. What if I call her now and press her with this information?" "But where would it be safe for us to meet?" asked Anna, thoughtfully. "I have the perfect place in mind," David proposed. "We can use my parents' house, since my mother is living with my brother in another country." "I understand. And where is this house?" Anna wanted to know more details. "It's about 100 kilometers from here, in a very isolated area," David clarified. After an extensive conversation, they sketched out the plan thoroughly. George had to say goodbye, but promised to return to join Anna and David in the final resolution of this disturbing dilemma. As soon as George left, Anna took the opportunity to deepen the bond with David, asking about his availability in the following days. "Come with me, I'll show you where you're staying," she said, a welcoming tone in her voice. "Thank you," David replied, somewhat awkwardly. Anna led him to a bare room, a bed neatly arranged, a sturdy wooden cabinet on the left, and a desk by the window that framed the daylight. Leaving him at ease, Anna withdrew, giving him space so that he could settle and rest, while she headed to the kitchen. In the following 2 days, the coexistence between David and Anna flowed naturally. Anna, always with her hair loose and elegant and wearing light and comfortable clothes, showed remarkable empathy. David's curiosity about Anna's occupations was satisfied when, noticing his interest, she called him into the kitchen and offered him a coffee, a moment she took advantage of to open up a little more. "I'm a psychologist, David. I took a few days off to support you. I have an office close to here. I had to rearrange my patient schedule for the next week," he explained, while sipping his coffee. "This is incredible. So you left medicine to dedicate yourself to psychology?" David asked, intrigued. "Yes, there were important reasons for this change," she replied, with a mysterious smile. "But we will talk about that later. What really matters now is how you're feeling," she emphasized, fixing her gaze on David as if he were her patient. David confessed that he had been struggling with insomnia and other physical discomforts in recent days, waking up frequently during the night and feeling a general malaise. Anna, attentive, explained that such symptoms could be indicative of post-traumatic stress, a common response after traumatic experiences, including flashbacks and nightmares. "And that's exactly what I feel," David admitted, crestfallen, revealing his still troubled inside. Anna approached and wrapped him in a comforting hug, assuring him that he was not alone and that she would be there to support him in the recovery of his mental and physical health. They remained hugged for a while she taught him breathing techniques to relieve anxiety. Hannah encouraged him to visualize a hopeful future and to remember the people he loved, helping him focus on positive thoughts. Soon after that moment, George called to let him know that he was on his way to start the plan. Anna mentioned that she had cameras and recorders at her disposal, resources that she used in some therapy sessions for study and research purposes, always with the authorization of the patients. She also revealed to David that she would try a friendlier approach with Emily, since she likely had her own traumas. David agreed. "I'm anxious about all this, but George said that the police officer who comes is trustworthy, so soon we will go to my mother's house for you to see the place. I want to get this sorted out soon," David said, his voice charged with a mixture of determination. When they arrived at the old house, David was flooded with happy memories. Hannah looked at David with an approving look as she saw him more harmonized. "Are you sure you want Emily to know where your house is?" she asked, cautiously. "Yes, I do. I have nothing more to do with this woman, and she will be arrested, so she will have no chance to come back here to harm me," David replied firmly. Anna did not reply, she just remained silent. Together, they checked the best places to position the cameras and recorders. Soon, George arrived accompanied by the policeman, and David reported everything in detail. Everyone sat on the sofa in the living room while the police officer assessed the seriousness of the situation and outlined the measures to be taken. George shared his plan and the policeman readily agreed, because with the recordings they would have concrete evidence. The police officer assured that he was available and that it was enough to set the date for the action. George also revealed that Emily had sought him out, inquiring about future procedures in relation to the company, upon learning that it was all in George's name, made a scandal, claiming that everything that belonged to David was now hers. Furious with the situation, she hired a lawyer and was shocked to discover that George had a power of attorney. "She probably doesn't understand how I got this power, but I'm glad you signed this while you were well," George commented. "She's going to get what she deserves," David said, expressing fury. "Calm down, David," Anna reassured. "I'm ready when you want. Can I call?" "Yes, do it now." "I want to see this woman arrested," David replied. And then Anna dialed Emily's number. After a ring, Emily answered. Anna took a deep breath and began to speak calmly. "Hello, I'm Anna. We need to meet to discuss how you buried your husband alive." There was a silence on the other end of the line. Anna went on to say that she would send a message with the address and time set for 17 o'clock the next day and wanted Louis to come along, warning that if Emily did not show up, the police would be at her door the next day, and running away would not be an option. George discreetly shared the details of this engagement with his friend who was a police officer. As the meeting approached, George arranged for his friend to receive Emily's license plate number, allowing him to follow her unnoticed, attentive to her every action. Arriving near the agreed address, Emily, who did not notice any strange movement, rang the doorbell. Anna opened the door and, with a serious expression, invited Emily in. Inside the house, David and George were waiting in one of the bedrooms, while the policeman decided to enter the place through the back entrance. Anna, standing firm, asked everyone to sit down before starting the dialogue. "Are you Anna?" asked Emily, visibly confused. "Yes, it's me. And it's definitely not a pleasure to meet you," Anna replied, with a look that seemed to penetrate Emily's soul. "What do you want from me?" "And how do you know who I am?" asked Emily, indignantly. Anna then revealed that her interest was to understand how Emily had the courage to poison her husband and lead him to his death. Emily, increasingly nervous, began to breathe heavily. "Where did you get this absurd idea from?" she exclaimed, trying to put herself in the position of victim. Anna continued the confrontation with shocking details. "I know a lot about you. You were pregnant when you visited that orphanage 10 years ago and abandoned the baby there. A decade passed and you married David, driven by a desire for revenge against him, due to the abuses committed by her father, Robert. Confront the truth," challenged Anna, exposing secrets that even David could not imagine. Emily, shaken and furious, began to walk back and forth as she spoke. "How can you know all this? Yes, it's true that his father abused me, that monster has already died, and yes, I wanted to get revenge on David for that. I hated him, I wanted him to suffer. I had to reveal this secret for him to trust me, but I never revealed the whole story," she confessed, in a moment of anger and despair. During her outburst, Emily also admitted that her life was in tatters and that she was constantly haunted by the nightmares involving David's father. In David, she found an outlet to channel her pent-up hatred, though she never nurtured true love for him. As she revealed these harrowing truths, Emily broke down in tears, describing how she induced David to ingest the poison, imagining that he would succumb peacefully in his sleep. In a fit of rage, she began grabbing objects around her, hurling them to the ground, while screaming and crying intensely. "Why such evil, Emily? Did it bring you any happiness? Did it help bring her any comfort?" asked Anna, approaching her with a mixture of compassion and firmness. "Of course not, I feel contaminated inside," Emily confessed, crying. "This David, he accepted everything I wanted. I don't even know to what extent he really believed in me." She paused, reflecting deeply on her actions. "But how could you, Emily, poison David, who showed affection for you?" Anna continued, encouraging her to expose more about her feelings. Emily exhibited aggressive behavior, alternating between moments of deep anger and abyssal sadness, a clear indication of her emotional instability. She confessed that remorse for what she did prevented her from sleeping, although she could not truly repent, feeling consumed by an immense emptiness. She didn't understand why she was revealing so much to Anna, who had the ability to deal with people in crisis. Maybe that's why she was prepared for such a situation. Distressed and stressed, Emily showed a general disinterest in life, wishing only to vent. "I'm here to help you," Anna said. "Help? Of course, you make me confess to a crime and now you say you want to help," Emily replied, indignation tinging her words, as she prepared to leave the place. "Wait, don't go. Now, I want you to see a certain person," Anna asked, trying to persuade her to stay. At that moment, David emerged, appearing from an adjacent room. Emily was stupefied, her heart paralyzed for a moment when she saw David. Not knowing how to react, she sat up, her eyes wide with shock. The silence was broken by the authoritarian voice of a police officer who came out of the kitchen, bringing the voice of arrest to both of them. "You are both in prison for attempted murder." The presence of David, still alive, was the most unexpected blow to Emily, who was paralyzed, unable to react. The policeman went on to explain that there was enough evidence of his attempt to murder David, and the fact that he was alive was the clearest evidence of his guilt. "You're going to pay for all of this," David declared, staring at Emily intensely. And, turning to Louis, whose expression was one of silent terror at being complicit, Emily took one last look at a picture of Robert and cried out desperately, "You've ruined my life. I hope you're in hell. I hate you all." Between tears of anger, Emily was taken away by the police, while Louis was also led out of the house. George emerged from the room and found David, whose skin had lost all color, revealing a paleness evident even from a distance. Without hesitation, he offered him some consolation. David felt a slight dizziness and was about to fall, but Anna, always vigilant, helped him settle on the sofa, allowing him to rest for a while. George looked at Anna, the worry marked on his face. "I'm worried, he still doesn't seem to be very well," he shared with a sigh. Anne, with a kind look and soft voice, replied, "I'll take care of him, George, you need not worry." David and Anna returned to Peter's house, where the serenity of the place offered a refuge from the turbulent emotions they had faced. Over the next few months, Anna conducted regular therapeutic sessions with David, encouraging him to focus on the present and the future, as well as the things that brought him joy. Peter, always a good listener, began to develop a deeper affinity with David, sharing stories from the cemetery and discussing the importance of facing life's adversities. On one of these afternoons, as she was preparing to leave, Anna announced that she was leaving to help with a reading project at the orphanage. David, wishing to explore more of the place that Hannah held so dear, asked if he could accompany her. She promptly accepted. When they arrived at the orphanage, Anna began to share with David why the place was so special to her. She explained that her mother, being an orphan, was adopted at the age of 9 by Peter's mother and grew up in that same orphanage. She decided to return there as a volunteer after marrying Anna's father. In the morning, she was a teacher at the school, and in the afternoon she went to the orphanage to teach the children, Anna recalled fondly. The conversation then turned to Emily when David asked how Anna had recognized her. Anna explained George had shown her a picture before she came to David's mother's house. It was then that she remembered seeing Emily leave a baby in front of the orphanage and run away. Anna was the one who took in the child, and later, when looking for Emily, she discovered that she had disappeared. At the end of the visit to the orphanage, Anna, sensing that David was ready to face another aspect of his past, made a revelation. "Sorry, but it was necessary. We needed to bring out his ego along with the painful memories." "There's something else you'd like to know, isn't there?" she asked, noticing David's still unsatisfied curiosity. "What do you think I wanted to know?" he replied, puzzled. "Do you want to meet Emily's son?" Anna revealed with a smile. Realizing how deeply Anna understood his desires, David couldn't help but smile in surprise. She began to realize how special Anna was. This recognition illuminated his vision of her, making him admire even more the extraordinary woman that Anna was. Surprised and thrilled by the proposal, David agreed to meet the boy, a moment that promised to be another significant step in his journey. When they arrived at the orphanage, Anna introduced David as her assistant for the day and handed him some bags full of donations to distribute. "Look who's here," Anna said, smiling at a boy approaching. "I have come to help, Aunt Anna," exclaimed the boy cheerfully. Anna then revealed to David that the boy, now over 10 years old, was Emily's son. Excited by the discovery, David began to interact with the boy. "Are you happy here, boy?" he asked. "I am, uncle, because Aunt Anna always comes here to play with us. She is like our mother," replied the boy, showing the affection he felt for her. That visit became an eye-opening moment for David. Over time, Anna started a fundraising campaign for the orphanage, while David invested in educational projects for the children. "It's been a year since my fake death," David remarked one day, a smile of relief on his face. "And it's good that now you're sleeping peacefully," Anna replied, sharing her joy. "And I'd sleep even better if I was next to you," David joked, letting out a laugh as he pulled a box out of his pocket. "What do you mean by that, David?" asked Anna, curiously. "It means I can't hide how I feel about you anymore, because you're the best in my life and I want to know if I can be yours too." In fact, I never want to leave your life, David declared, sincerely. Yes. Anna exclaimed. Then David kissed her passionately. In the months that followed, David's life transformed in ways he never thought possible. He and Anna consolidated their relationship, both personally and professionally, working together at the orphanage and expanding education and welfare projects for the children. Buying a house on the way between the city and the orphanage created a welcoming haven for them, a place where they could both cultivate their relationship and their passions. Together, they looked to the future, filled with hope and assurance that no matter what challenges they faced, they would overcome them together, strengthened by the love and compassion they shared for each other and the community they had helped build. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, give it a like, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. See you in the next story.